They said I was worthless until I bought their house.
30's the age when folks settle down. House, spouse, kids, maybe a dog barking at the mailman. Not me. I'm standing in front of an old house in this nowhere town, staring at chipped paint, a crooked fence, and a sold sign hanging by one nail. This place is mine now. Not because I grew up here, but because I bought it. Bought it from the people who kicked me out 12 years ago, yelling I wasn't their son anymore. My sister, my brother, my parents, they're ghosts to me, but ghosts that still burn every time I think back. It all started with her lie. The day my life shattered like glass under a hammer. My little sister Lauren was a pro at dodging trouble. At 20, she drowned in debt. Credit cards maxed out on coats, clubs, and a guy named Zach who swore he'd marry her, then bolted with her cash and her car. Instead of owning up, she pointed at me. He stole the family savings, she screamed, tears streaking her face, while Mom and Dad glared like I'd snuck into their home. I was 18, busting my ass at a garage on the edge of town, saving for a beat-up Ford I'd dreamed of since I was a kid. We had money stashed, Grandpa's inheritance, a few grand in a tin box under their bed. I never touched it, ever. But Lauren swore she saw me rifling through it at night, and that was enough. My brother Dave jumped in fast. He's always been greedy, he said, staring me down, with ice in his eyes that cut deeper than any knife. We'd shared a room forever, bunk beds, late-night talks about opening a bar for him, a shop for me. Now he nodded along as Lauren sobbed. Later I found out Mom and Dad promised him a cut of the cash if he backed her. He picked her side, picked her lie, picked money I didn't take. They didn't even blink. Dad roared, "You're a disgrace, get out." His voice boomed like a gunshot, finger jabbing at the door. Mum stood there, crying, twisting her sweater, but didn't stop him. "How could you?" she whispered, eyes on the floor like I'd already done it. No chance to explain, no chance to grab more than a backpack with some clothes and $100 from my jeans. The door slammed shut so hard the windows rattled. I stood on the porch in cold October rain, hearing them argue inside about what to do without that money. I didn't know it was just the start of my hell. First night, I crashed in a stairwell next door, cold concrete, reek of damp and cat piss, hum of an elevator going anywhere but to me. Sat against the wall, watching rain drip down the glass. Morning came, and I hunted for work. The garage canned me in a week. Some neighbor spread word I was a thief, and the boss, a fat guy with a sweaty forehead, said, "Don't need trouble, kid, find somewhere else." I landed a gig washing dishes at a diner by the bus station, stacks of greasy plates, stench of rancid oil, cook yelling, "Move it, slacker," for $10 a day, barely enough for bread, and a can of tuna if I got lucky. Lived in my car, a junky Chevy I'd snagged cheap before this mess. Slept curled up in the back, legs cramping, windows fogging from my breath. Winter hit fast, frost bit to the bone, and I wrapped myself in a moldy blanket I'd pulled from a dumpster. It stank, had holes, but kept me warm, and that's all I cared about. Engine started half the time. I prayed it wouldn't die, 'cause without it I'd freeze. One night I woke up shivering, teeth chattering, fingers numb, had to climb out and push the damn thing through snow to jumpstart it. Neighbors watched from their windows, but no one helped. I was alone. Depression hit like a brick wall. Started drinking, cheap beer from plastic bottles, $1 at the station kiosk. Sat on a bench by the tracks, watched trains vanish into the dark, thought how easy it'd be to step in front of one. Friends I had bailed, some bought the rumors, others didn't want to deal with a homeless guy. Tried renting a room, but landlords kicked me out fast. Late rent, shady look, whatever excuse they had. One guy renting me a roach-infested hole yelled, "Get out, drunk," and tossed my bag into the hall. I grabbed him, we fought on the stairs till neighbors called the cops. They hauled me to the station, locked me up overnight with a reeking bum, let me go with a warning, caught again, you're done. Hunger was my shadow. Dug through diner trash for pizza scraps or fries, dodging stray dogs snapping at the same haul. Worked whatever I could, hauled crates at a warehouse till my back screamed, washed cars at a gas station till my hands turned blue, scrubbed club toilets while drunks shouted, "Hey janitor, hustle! Caught stealing once!" Bread and sardines from a store. Guard beat me till I spat blood, but didn't call the cops. Pity you kid, don't come back. Didn't cry, limped off, clutching that bread, swore I'd never sink that low again. Life after that store bus got murkier. I stuck to my vow not to steal food, but it didn't lighten the load. Hunger gnawed at me like rats in an old wall. Took any gig to keep my mind off it. Got a job lugging sacks at the market, potatoes and rotten apples, till my shoulders burned and sweat stung my eyes. Paid $5 a shift if the boss felt generous, zilch if he thought I slacked. Dropped a crate of fish once, stinky sludge splashed everywhere, and a guy with a gold chain yelled, "You'll pay for this, punk!" Didn't pay. Walked off while he waved his fists, pockets empty as always. Then I mopped floors at a dead mall on the outskirts. Quiet, just my mop, scraping and the creak of old storefronts where they used to sell jeans and TVs. Guard, a bald geezer with a cig in his teeth, tossed me a couple bucks extra if I grabbed him coffee from the machine. Gig ended when they shut the place for demolition. Showed up one morning, gates locked, no one bothered to tell me I was out. Stood there, staring at rusty shutters, thinking how fast stuff falls apart. My life, this town, my shot at anything. Depression became me. Drank more, not just beer, but harder stuff when I could snag it. Vodka from plastic cups at the station torched my throat, dulled the noise in my head, slept wherever, car till it died for good, park benches till cops chased me off, then a basement in an abandoned house, stinking of damp, rats rustling in the dark. Woke up once to a kick in the ribs, drunk hobo yelling, "This is my spot, beat it!" Waved him off, he hit again, so I staggered into the night, rain soaking me cold, clutching my side. Jobs got nastier. Cleaned ditches by the road, knee-deep in mud, scooping trash and leaves while cars splashed me. $3 a day, but I took it 'cause it beat nothing. Handed out flyers next, trudged streets, stuffed papers in mailboxes till my feet bled in worn sneakers. Folks treated me like dirt. Old lady on the 3rd floor dumped water on my head. Stopped shoving junk here, wiped my face, kept going, 'cause stopping meant giving up. Tried cars again, landed a helper gig at a roadside shop. Owner, a skinny guy with an eagle tattoo on his neck, said, "Prove you're worth it." Fixed an old Toyota, hands shaky from hunger, but I pulled it off. He gave me $20, promised steady work, then fired me a week later. Customer griped I looked like a bum, bad for business. Left with that cash clenched in my fist, bought my first hot meal in a month. Soup at a roadside joint. Thin with soggy potato chunks, but I ate slow, savoring every spoonful, not knowing when I'd get more. That's when I hit Rusty Nail, a dive bar on the edge of town where the broken but breathing hung out. Smelled of beer, smoke and sweat, but it was warm and the bartender didn't care if you nursed a single glass. Sat in the corner with a buck's worth of beer when 2 guys joined me. Ed, ex-mechanic, 40-ish, grey at the temples, hands scarred from old burns. Paul, cook with a red face and a loud laugh, sacked for smashing his boss's mirror with a pan. They were buzzed, but kind. Ed eyed me. "You look like me when my wife ditched. Pissed, but not dead." Paul slapped my back. "Come on, kid, it can't get worse." "Spill it." I did. Told him about Lauren, Dave, Mum and Dad, how I ended up here. They nodded, listening. Then Ed said, "I've got a plan." Pulled keys from his pocket, rusted set for a Dodge van rotting at the dump. "Let's fix it. Start something," he added. Paul grinned. "I cook better than half these dumps. We could sell food." Stared at their beat-up faces, felt a spark I hadn't in years. Maybe I wasn't done. Finished our beers, headed to check that van. Dump was dark, reeking of rust and gas. Dodge sat in the corner, flat tire, cracked windshield, but the engine coughed alive, crawled under the hood while Ed held a phone flashlight. Hands shook, not from cold, but from doing what I knew again. Worked till dawn, got it running. Paul dragged an old gas stove from his rented room, cooked soup right there at the dump. Ate it from plastic cups, laughed like fools, and for the first time in forever, I wasn't alone. That was our start. That first soup at the dump was salty and burnt, but to me it was a sign, first taste of something new. Me, Ed, and Paul decided that Rusty Dodge was our ticket out. Days I fixed it, changed oil, patched the body, soldered wires till my fingers bled from rust, and burns off a junkyard torch Ed scavenged. Nights we crashed in a garage we rented cheap from some drunk, leaky roof, piles of trash, smelled like hell. Ed taught me tricks, how to coax an engine with no parts, weld rust shut, keep a wreck rolling when it wanted to quit. He was patient but sharp. Messed up, he'd yell, "Think, kid, or you're left with nada." Paul cooked, hauled his pots, knives, spices, scraps from his old gig. On a stove that barely heated, he fried patties, simmered soups, baked flatbreads. From flour we scraped cash for. Sold food to truckers by the highway, parked the van roadside, lit it with a busted lamp we found, waved them down. First week, netted $50. I remember us in the garage counting crumpled bills, laughing like we'd hit the jackpot. Paul said, "If this takes off, I'll make burgers they'll howl for." Ed smacked my shoulder, "And you'll fix whatever they break." It took off, slow. Slept in that garage on damp mattresses, bundled in old jackets, ate our own soup because it's all we had. Days I worked, swapped tires, cleaned filters, scrubbed rust till my hands turned black. Nights helped Paul, chopped onions till I cried, kneaded dough till my arms ached. Truckers knew us. One big beard, Ted said, "Best grub in 100 miles." He brought a buddy, that guy brought more, and by month's end we cleared $100, bought paint, covered the van's rust, scribbled road bites on the side. Paul's idea, me and Ed cracked up, but kept it. Year in, we saved for a second van, a junk Ford from an auction, fixed it 3 months. Nights under a lantern while Ed snored in the corner. Paul cooked bigger, his burgers got famous, soups so thick a spoon stood up. Set up at a gas station, food on one side, repairs on the other. Folks came, truckers, locals, word spread about those highway guys. I learned to fix anything, tires, engines, bikes, old pickups. Ed got drunk sometimes. I'd find him with a bottle, yank it away while he yelled, "I ain't a kid." He stuck around for us. Paul fought customers who got lippy, smashed a guy's nose once for spitting in his soup. I pulled him apart, blood on the pavement. Depression didn't leave, just got quieter. Still drank, less, but enough to mute Lauren, Dave, Mum, Dad. Nights when the garage went silent, I sat by the van, stared at stars, thought how far I'd come from that kid in the rain. Me, Ed, Paul, we were family, messy but real. They dragged me out of the pit. I kept them from sliding back. Third year, we had 3 vans and a shop. Small, 2 lifts, parts Ed scored from old pals. Learned to count cash, haggle with suppliers, keep Paul off fists, Ed off booze. Called it 3 strays. Joke was, my real family ditched me, but these 2 stuck closer than blood. By year 5 we were loaded, not billionaires, but set. 3 strays was a name around here. Vans roamed highways, shop buzzed with jobs. Bought myself a house, small, crooked fence, but mine. Ed quit drinking, said I gave him a reason to stay straight. Paul opened a food spot in town. His burgers cost triple, he bragged. Michelin's coming for me soon. Looked at him, thought how wild it was, from trash bins and despair to this. but a hole still smouldered inside. Lauren, Dave, my parents left it there. Didn't forget, didn't forgive. 10 years after they kicked me out, 3 Strays wasn't just a gig, it was my win. Me, Ed, and Paul built a damn empire from the roadside. 5 food vans roamed the highways, shop grew to 3 bays, hired 10 folks, mechanics, cooks, even a kid at the till who counted change faster than a machine. Bought myself a real house, not a mansion, but new fence, solid roof, view of a field where cows grazed at dawn. Ed started teaching, ran classes for young gearheads, showed 'em tricks like he did me, no yelling, just coffee in hand. Paul launched a sauce line, spicy as his temper, sold in every store from here to the next state. We were rich, not yacht rich, but enough to not sweat every dime. I changed, quit drinking, stopped after waking up with an empty bottle, didn't want to end up like Ed before we met. Depression stuck around, a shadow I lived with, like a neighbor tapping the wall. Worked less, hired help so I wouldn't burn out, but checked vans, shop, books daily, kept me sharp. Ed and Paul were my family. We did Christmas in the garage, roasted turkey on an old stove, laughed about our start. But an ember still glowed inside. Lauren, Dave, my parents lit it. And it never died. Didn't look for 'em, didn't care, till I heard by chance. Old neighbor Joe, guy across from my childhood home, spilled it over coffee when I swung by town for business. He'd watched my blowouts with family 12 years back, leaned on his fence, smoked, shook his head, while Dad screamed me down in front of everyone. "They're broke now, kid," he said, staring into his mug. Lauren got nabbed for fraud, scammed some dude with a fake card, forged signatures, locked up for 3 years. Dave ditched his family, girl he sold me out for, ran off with their cash, left him with 2 kids and debts. Mum and Dad lost the house, pawned it to bail Lauren out. Bank took it when they couldn't pay. Joe sighed. "They rent a room from Marge, that cat lady. Beg at church Sundays." I nodded, finished my coffee, left. Then did something I hadn't planned. Called my real estate guy, the one who sold me that first garage, find me that house. Week later, he rang. "It's on auction, dirt cheap. No one wants that dump with cracked walls and a jungle yard. Bought it, no haggling, signed the papers, got the keys, drove there, to the town where it all kicked off. Stood at the porch, staring at peeling paint, busted windows, weeds busting through concrete. This was my house now. Mine not because I grew up here, but because I took it from them. They were inside. Knocked. Don't know why, maybe wanted to see their faces. Mom opened the door, old grey hair poking from a scarf, wrinkles carving her face like cracked pavement. She froze, then cried, "Oh, son, it's you?" Dad shuffled out, hunched, hands shaky like he was 90, not 60. "We were wrong," he mumbled, eyes down. Dave sat in the corner, thin, hollow-eyed, kids playing with a torn doll nearby. Lauren came last, ratty robe, face pale as ash. "You here to save us?" she asked, hope and shame mixing in her voice. Stood there, looking at them, the ones who torched my soul 12 years ago. Mum sobbed, "Forgive us, we didn't know." Dad echoed, "We were blind." Dave begged cash for his kids. Lauren pleaded to pull her from debt post jail. Said nothing. Remembered sleeping in my car, scrapping for bread, digging through trash while they split money I didn't steal. Thought of Ed and Paul yanking me from the gutter, building 3 strays from scratch, rising while they sank. Held the key to their past in my hand, the house that was my nightmare, now my prize. What'll I do? Walk away, leave them with their lies and pleas like they left me in the rain? Or step in, offer a chance they never gave me? Dunno yet. Stand on the porch, hearing their voices drown in silence, thinking, Is this the end or a beginning? They betrayed me, broke me, but I survived. Grew stronger than all of them. This house is mine now, they're just shadows inside. Maybe I'll leave, maybe I'll stay. But I decide